The majority of you have virtual businesses. Now, it's going to depend on your personal tax residency, but in most cases, then you're probably going to want to be in a jurisdiction that has pass-through taxation, because then it makes your life a little bit easier and potentially, depending on tax residency, potentially a way for you to seriously optimize your tax situation. All right, welcome. Today, we are going to be discussing the lovely topic of company structure as a digital nomad. Who here is an entrepreneur? You have your own business. Freelancers? Anything else? Remote workers? All right. Anyone wondering here, thinking this was, not sure exactly what room they're in, thinking this was the polyamorous mushroom workshop? No? Good. All right, so I am Bobby Casey, self-assessed, sexy tax guy. You may know me better for my tax and residency solutions presentation. People say, why do you call yourself sexy tax guy? Wojtek, if I help you save 50,000 euros a year in tax, how sexy am I? Sounds pretty fucking sexy. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna stay on point on company structure here. But just know all the other components when it comes to like your tax residency, your physical residency, citizenship, family, business, that kind of thing. These all matter when it comes to your tax planning, not only business structure. They're all relevant. You can't just say, I'll just register a company and that solves all my problems. That's not the way it works. So we're going to go through just the company structure piece. So like I said, if you've been to one of my other presentations, anybody ever been to my tax talk presentation, like my tax and residency solutions, like my PowerPoint slide, not like the unconference workshop? Yeah, a couple of you, okay. Disclaimer, this presentation is only going to give you, it's going to give you general information about the right questions to ask and how to think about where and how you want to structure your business to optimize. Who here has a business, like a company structure in place now? Something registered. Who here is registered in their home country? Maybe because you still live there, maybe because you don't know any better. That's a serious question, right? Because a lot of people, especially nomadic people, it's a complex topic when you start dealing with cross-border issues, and people think, I'm Canadian, I'll leave the company in Canada because everything else seems way too complicated. Okay? I can tell you, if you have your company registered in your home country and you're not a resident or a tax resident in your home country, unless you have a legitimate reason, like you have nexus in that country, you're selling in that country, that sort of thing, that is almost always a terrible idea. Almost always. If you're trying to optimize. If you're lazy and you want to pay tax in your home country because you feel moral obligation to give away huge chunks of your money, then by all means, do that. But you almost always can optimize and have a better solution by choosing a different company structure if you pre-plan it. A disclaimer, this is just going to get you started to give you some ideas where to think about, how to think about it, that sort of thing. If you need like detailed discussions, you will need at some point a consultation with somebody that knows what they're doing. Okay? How many people here read something on like a Facebook post or talked to a friend, a blog post or something like that, and said, that looks pretty good, I'll just do that? Like, how many people are willing to raise their hand and admit that? I'm gonna do my best and not make fun of you, but hold tight, okay? Because that is generally the worst possible way you can go about making choices on your tax planning and your company structure, because those people aren't you, and your situation is guaranteed somewhat different than their situation, number one. And number two, even if they are a professional, they don't know all the details about your situation. One minor thing can completely change your structure there to make it better or terrible. And then in most cases, the people on these blogs and Facebook groups and stuff like that, I'm gonna say this kindly, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They are like looking at things through their own lenses, and their lens is not your lens, and in most cases they're wrong. I'll give you an example. I had a Swedish client, I guess it's going on 2 years now. He did exactly that. He exactly read online that I should do this. Somebody told him he should register a company in Hong Kong. That would solve all his woes. He would exit Sweden. He would no longer have to pay tax in Sweden. He was going to bounce around Southeast Asia and everything would be glorious. And for 10 years, it was glorious. He never paid tax to Sweden. He paid very little tax in Hong Kong, so it was wonderful. Everything worked great. Except he decided to move back to Sweden and resettle in his home country. And he re-registered, and they said, hey, where have you been? We see you didn't, when you exited here, you didn't actually exit in the correct way because Sweden has very specific rules on what you need to do to exit. They said, where have you been paying tax since you didn't exit here in the correct way? And he didn't have an answer for them, and he owed over €1 million. I don't remember the kroner conversion, but he owed over €1 million in tax because he read some Facebook post 10 years ago and thought that seemed like a good idea. Don't do that. Get some proper advice up front. Factors to consider for proper company structure is what's most important in your business? Anyone, give me an answer.
Money.
It's a hint on the page. Money. Getting paid. I know many of you have these altruistic reasons why you're in business, but let's be honest, you still want to get paid, right? You still want to get paid. And this is a pretty serious thing because a lot of people think, I'll register my company in, I don't know, let's say Panama, and Panama has no tax, and that'll be a great solution for me. How do you get paid? Oh, you get paid in Stripe. That doesn't work with a Panamanian company. If we were on a consultation, one of the first things I'm going to ask you is, how do you get paid? You tell me Stripe, we're going to go to the Stripe Terms of Service page, and I'm going to show you all the jurisdictions where you can have a company registered. And Panama's not on there. Neither is Belize, neither are any of the offshore havens, neither are a lot of options. There are a lot of options on there, and almost all of them do not work if you are nomadic because they put you into high tax jurisdictions where you're going to pay a high company tax. It doesn't work in most cases. What we would do, we would open the Stripe Terms of Service page, we would go through and I would show you the 2 or 3 or 4 that might make sense for your situation. And then we would be able to narrowly focus down on that, okay? How you get paid is critically important. You get paid Stripe, PayPal, traditional merchant processing, crypto, cash in a brown paper bag, the gas station, I don't know, however you get paid, but you still gotta consider how you get paid. Of course, if you're getting paid in a brown paper bag in cash, who gives a shit about having a company registered anyway, right? Anyway, but if you're looking to scale the business, you might want to think about things like merchant processing, and now you have to think about where your company structure is. Tax structure, the tax structure of the jurisdiction where you're registering your company, okay? For example, some company structures in certain countries have high corporate tax. Do you want that? Does it make sense for you? Are you German selling in the German market? Maybe it makes sense for you to have a German company. If you're selling physical goods in Germany, in the German market, you're going to pay a high tax on that company. But if it's an opportunity you are like taking advantage of, that's going to be the easiest solution for you because having a company registered in, I don't know, Singapore, but selling e-com in Germany is probably going to create some problems for you. And technically you'd still be taxable in Germany anyway, so it doesn't really benefit you in that case. So you have to think about the tax structure. Do you want to pay tax in that jurisdiction? Does it make sense? Do they have a company tax? Do they have pass-through taxation? Some companies in some jurisdictions have pass-through taxation, which for many of you makes the most sense. How many of you have physical goods businesses? Okay, not physical goods businesses. So physical goods businesses typically need to be registered in the jurisdiction where you predominantly sell those goods. Otherwise, you're going to have, or like for example, if you're selling in the European Union, it doesn't necessarily have to be an Italian company, but somewhere in the European Union if you're selling physical goods. Okay, digital products, services. Digital products, services. Coaching, software, SaaS businesses, stuff like that. Okay, so all of you guys have virtual businesses, right? Or most of those of you raising their hand. The majority of you have virtual businesses. Now, it's going to depend on your personal tax residency, but in most cases, then you're probably going to want to be in a jurisdiction that has pass-through taxation, because then it makes your life a little bit easier, and potentially, depending on tax residency, potentially a way for you to seriously optimize your tax situation. Client location, this can matter, especially for physical products businesses. I'll go into this in a later slide a little bit more, but for example, if you are an e-commerce seller selling in North America, a Hong Kong corporation is not going to be a good solution for you, because you might be doing it now because you've had this structure set up for a long time, but at some point this is going to break, because banks in Hong Kong do not like you to be doing business outside of Asia with a Hong Kong company. The banks eventually, when their compliance department catches up to it, they're probably going to shut your bank account down. I actually just had a talk 2 days ago with a guy, I don't think he's in here, but anyway, I had a talk with a guy 2 days ago who had a Hong Kong company and was having major banking problems now because he doesn't do business in Southeast Asia. They're hassling him to close the bank account and they keep giving him threats. We're going to close your bank account. If you have a bank account giving you threats, they're going to shut you down, they're probably not kidding. Okay, it's probably a legitimate threat. You probably need to find a better solution for your business if you got banks threatening you. Client location can matter depending on the nature of your business. And the last one I got on here is personal tax residency. That can matter. Somebody asked me in the unconference the other day, can you not have tax residency somewhere? Yes, the answer is yes. Yes, you can, depending on your nationality and depending on a few factors. But for many of you, it's possible. I think we had a Norwegian that mentioned something. Yeah, you have to be a tax resident somewhere. I believe it's 4 years after you exit Norway. You have to be able to prove that you're a tax resident somewhere else, or Norway won't let you go. There's a couple of countries like that. But for the most of you Canadians, I got Canadians in here. Canadians, it's ridiculously easy to leave. UK, Germany, actually most of the EU, it's really easy to exit. Americans, how many Americans I got? Yeah, you guys are fucked. Yeah. You're going to be a tax resident of the US as long as you have that blue passport with the gold eagle in the front. But there are a lot of loopholes for Americans, and most of my American clients that earn under about $250,000 pay no tax, zero, including self-employment tax. There are options for you to optimize certain things. Personal tax residency matters. So like I said before, you've got to keep in mind company structure is important, but your personal tax residency matters. For example, I've got a lot of clients that live in Portugal because NHR was super attractive, or I guess technically still is super attractive until they close that window, whenever they finally come to terms when they're going to close that window. But that kind of thing is super attractive. But then if you register, let's say you register a company in Malta, because you can get a tax rate down around, I think it's 3 or 4% with the credits and everything. The problem is, if that company in Malta is really just a virtual company, you don't have an office, you don't have Nexus there, you don't have employees, that sort of thing. In the European Union, if you're working in Portugal, you have to consider company establishment rules. You're actually, technically speaking, you may be getting away with it, but technically speaking, your Maltese company should be taxed in Portugal as a Portuguese company. It should pay company tax in Portugal under EU company establishment rules. Okay? So if you're doing this, playing the game and getting away with it, if you're willing to keep taking the risk, go for it, but you might want to think about, at least plan to start making some better strategy for you, because EU can be pretty tricky if you are living in the European Union with an EU registered company, not in that jurisdiction.